This region around the Great Lakes has been called a heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Hello, good morning, and welcome, everyone. It is Friday, August 21st, and this is the AgYield War Room. I, of course, am AgYield's marketing manager, everyone's favorite backup host, and currently the poorest man in the Hamptons, Jack Coakley. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to join the discussion. You can post your comments anywhere you see fit. We're always answering your questions or comments at info@agyield.com. Before we go over to Brian with some overnight numbers, just want to let you know I am at my 94-year-old grandmother's house in East Quogue. That's where I'm at today. And I was just informed that the basement is flooding. So here's some sounds you might hear from my end today. A grown man with a sump pump, my dad swearing, and I know my 2-year-old Lenny is running around as well. So I apologize for all those noises. Now, Brian, let's get those overnight numbers going.
All right. Thanks, Jack. D's corn was up a quarter at 503 3/4. No beans down 3 1/4 at 1233 1/4. D Chicago wheat down 2 1/2 at 697 1/2. We also had some export sales come through this morning after the overnight closed. 205,000 metric tons of corn to unknown for 26-27. 712 million metric tons of soybeans to China for 26-27. And another 720,000 metric tons of soybeans to unknown for 26-27. So we'll see. These all numbers came out after the close, so we'll see if beans turn around on those numbers there.
Sounds good. Thanks for that, Brian. Dustin, let's start the discussion with you. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Jack. Yeah. Markets they're on a precipice here. We're going into the weekend. We've got big, opinions about yield. And, I would say that's the majority of what I've heard. A lot of, people on X and Twitter, starting to adjust their yield expectations down. First started with the August WASDE report, right? They went from 183 to 180.7. And that'd still be the second largest yield yet on record. So not too unbelievable. What the Pro Farmer Crop Tour is finding, obviously that suggests yields may drop as well, and I wouldn't discount that as a possibility for sure. I think that we still got to remember we do have a ton of acres and we do have a ton of carry-in. We still have geopolitical risk, and the market is pretty good at pricing this in. So if you just look over the moves of the last 2 weeks, corn is definitely pricing in, both on the spreads and on flat price, the difference in change of expectations. So at what point does that match up to, what these yield suggestions are? So here's the chart of December corn. We don't talk a lot about technicals here. Generally it's, I think, fundamentals are the main thing we want to look at. Though when there is a big, technical setup that a lot of people are discussing, we do have the potential here to hit a double top. If we turn lower, like last night, we were trying to turn lower. We're within 1/4% of the high from back there in May, and now we're holding below it to start the day. So it will be kind of an interesting day. If for some reason, fundamentals turn negative over the weekend, and we've been able to hold this number, then we will technically have made a double top. So just a time frame for growers that are, trying to look for, the next level to hedge, or next area to start maybe setting floors with put options. $5 corn's a pretty good price. I think it's a profitable price for the average university balance sheets. And, we've already been doing a lot of that, right? So that's not like it's not like a thing that we would say is, now's the time to hedge. But if you do have bushels you're trying to catch up on, I don't think now is a bad time to reduce risk. Just simple ways. This is a very high profile weekend, in my opinion, going into next week. And part of it also has to do with these Iranian sanctions. We're not really just sanctioning Iran. we're sanctioning the buyers from Iran, India and China. China has already kind of stated that they are not going to accept that. And if for some reason this large, escalation on sanctions that President Trump's promised is actually a target against China, that might be a geopolitical risk going into next week for both corn and beans. So just kind of keeping the devil's advocate in mind of why prices don't always just simply go up in a straight line, as we saw on that chart. There is still risk here. I hope it keeps going higher. I think Jason said it perfectly yesterday. Like, I hope it keeps going higher, but our job is to not have that regret if we do end up, for the third year in a row in the lower fours at harvest, that we have enough covered.
Yeah, certainly. Ben, let's shoot it over to you. What's on your mind?
Just looking at the broader landscape, and we had mentioned this back, I'm sure, in the early summer, and talked about the sensitivity that corn price could have to yield with the demand that's out there. And I think that we've created, definitely a tilt towards it moving lower, with the USDA going lower on the report. Now the Pro Farmer Tour definitely going to be lower. But there's a wide range of yield estimates out there still. So I think that's a tough one to put your finger on. But more importantly, sometimes markets just need a lot of little things to happen in order to create sort of an underlying bid. And we see a lot of those things. And whether you want to call them little or big, they do have an impact. But we have, on the flip side of that, we have a large crop coming in. There's an incredible amount of geopolitical tension. And here we are on August 21st, and we still haven't taken out the highs. So I think we're at a volatile point. And which way it goes, that's TBD over the next week or so. But there certainly is a lot of little things that are contributing here. And there's a lot of those things could be price negative, because we priced that in. We know about those things. And certainly it could accelerate from here if we don't get some resolution in Ukraine. We've a drought in Western Europe. The list goes on. So it's not, we're here, right? We're gonna maybe make some new highs and try to extend this thing, or we're not. And yield data is the swing, the sensitivity to price with a tight balance sheet is pretty significant. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen manifest itself over the last 10 days.
Certainly. Jason, anything to include here?
No, good to see the bean sales here this morning. Maybe justify the 50-60 cent rally in beans the last handful of days. With plenty of rain through August, you would think. The corn kind of makes sense, right? We really beat it up. A lot of funds, call them the perma bear funds, got really short, run in, and this last little run up counter seasonally with a yield reduction, and everything Dustin said, right? Like the yield went down, perceptions are it's going to keep being reduced. There's a lot of chatter out there that we're going to be in the mid 170s, which would be super tight. I think when I zoom out and you look at world supplies, they're pretty adequate. Now I think there's just a lot of risk premium getting put into this market of what if, right? What if the Black Sea region tensions grow and more ports are blown up and ships are blown up, and we do have a little tighter balance sheet in for our carryout, and we also pick up some of that global demand, right? We know that Europe had this drought, and a lot of that grain in the world is going to need to come from the Black Sea region. If that gets all disrupted, right, we kind of pick that up. So I think all this stuff kind of feeds on itself, right? So this nice run up, there's a lot of tailwinds for the grain markets, and we've seen. Just go look at a corn chart and just look at the volatility, right? If you would have told me in May that corn was going to go from 506 down to 420 something, whatever it went to, before we had any idea what the crop was going to do, there's no way I would have guessed that. Now to say it's going to do that again seems less likely. But there's still a lot of private estimates out there that have a record yield, and so that has not been determined yet. So for the USDA to come out in September and disappoint on not lowering yield, you got to keep that into consideration with all these new longs that have been added with that narrative in mind. There's just a lot that can change the narrative. And like Dustin said, I hope it keeps going up. I hope, we do pick up additional demand on top of already robust demand that we've built here with some cheap prices over the last handful of years. So all that stuff, obviously we want. I think we're, talking to guys, right? We are obviously having a lot of conversations with where's this thing going, and should I sell more? Should I buy more upside? Finding that balance, right? Like if you're at $5 corn, you got a good yield, and if it goes to $6 corn, for you to get $6 corn on all it's just you have to take massive amount of risk to catch the next dollar. So you got to figure out that balance, right? And you either spend some money on protection, be happy with the price you have with some upside, kind of figure out what that right balance is. Obviously that's what we do every day. So I think a lot of times as I've talked to guys, showing them, okay, here's what happens if we do break 50 cents, here's what happens if we rally 50. And when the markets are up, show them that farm profitability number and compare it to the last couple of years. I think a lot of guys are surprised of where we're at and where those dollars are compared to the last couple of years, and just a much healthier balance sheet at these prices. So
thanks for that, Jason. Ryland, let's shoot it over to you and talk about the meats.
Yes, indeed. Well, it was a little bit better of a close yesterday for cattle. I mean, you're still in the lower end of the range here for the week. Not a lot of cash trade getting done here. I mean, we've already seen some 225 down about $3 for the week, and then 355 in dress down about 8. So all in all, it's still a pretty kind of weak market overall. I mean, we do have a cattle on feed report today that could change things. Obviously, we're likely to see a little bit of short covering here in front of that report, and the market's expecting on feed at 102, placements at around 93, and marketing's at around 93. So the big news today, though, was that Trump announced waiving tariffs on 300,000 metric tons of ground beef imports over the next 90 days at no tariff rate. So I think this kind of goes to show that we're still going to be battling the administration a little bit on this side, just because obviously their agenda is to get beef prices lower. And so looks like they're going to try to flood the wholesale market here as quickly as they can over the next 90 days. So this is definitely a problem. I mean, we know that we kind of knew this was coming. The market's been exceptionally weak. Beef prices have been on a big rally, but started to come down. So we were down about $5 in choice and down about 40 cents in select yesterday. So I imagine that's going to help things along pretty good here and kind of stop the seasonal rally that we've seen in beef if this gets implemented pretty quickly. So I think that's definitely a little bit of a negative force going into the tail end of the year here, and definitely increases downside risk. So I think that's something to be wary of even after this report. So we'll see how that goes. And also next week, Douglas, Arizona, port of entry opens to cattle imports for the first time in 15 months next week. So we'll see what kind of impact that has. We'll see those numbers coming across the border. And we'll see if there's any hiccups with that. Obviously, it's been shut because of screwworm, and now we're opening the floodgates, as it were, starting in Arizona and then moving on to New Mexico once I think they got this all hammered out and there's no issues with that. So definitely a lot of negative news coming into today. Hopefully we get something good on the on the cattle on feed side of things, especially with that lower placement number. On the hog side of things, mixed close, still hovering around contract lows here. Just seems like likely to see some short covering before the weekend. But at this point, product markets are still pretty weak. Carcass down $1.09, bellies down almost $5 yesterday. Just cannot seem to find the support in bellies that we need to have at this time of year, I think, to really kind of get things moving. Usually you do see a little bit of an uptick before or the week after Labor Day. Hopefully we see that again here. That could be a good source of support, but it still feels like it's a sell rallies market here, Jack. So I appreciate it.
Good to know. Thanks, Ryland. Well, it is Friday, which means it's everyone's favorite day of the week and favorite segment of the week, Brian's Fun Fact Friday. Brian, take it away.
Thanks, Jack. Every Friday, everybody, we made it. Today's Friday fun fact is on underwear. Yes, undies, but not just anyone's undies. King Tut's undies.
Okay.
So when archaeologist Howard Carter opened Boy's tomb in 1922, he didn't find gold and curses. He found neatly folded piles of royal laundry meant to keep the pharaoh comfortable in the afterlife. Some analysis of King Tut's royal wardrobe reveals that some of his buried undies, Ryland, actually featured ancient skid marks. Real signs of use. So
Like
even
my
though he
dad.
had plenty of pristine, pairs packed away, he also brought his favorites along with him as well for eternity. So inside the tomb in boxes was 145 linen loincloths packed for his journey. His undies featured a royal 200 thread count, while commoners wore, merely 37 thread weaves. So besides, yeah, right. Besides undies, he had special socks to wear with sandals, stitched gap between the first and second toe. He had 47 pairs of sandals in the tomb with him as well. On the soles of his sandals featured drawings of his enemies, so he can literally stomp them with every step. So let's go back to the undies. The man-boy king, who ruled from 9 years old to 19, his precise body measures were very strange. He was only 5 feet 6 inches tall. His chest was merely 31 inches. His waist was only 29 inches, but this is the weird fact. His hips were 43 inches. He was basically shaped like a pear.
You need some undies at that rate.
Yeah, so his undies actually had to be explicitly tailor-made to accommodate such a large backside. And I think we actually have a pic of this pharaoh in his heyday.
I got this from the National Archives of the Historical Society, I believe. Let's get this.
Oddly enough, that does look like mine. I'm not gonna lie.
Happy Friday, everybody!
Oh my God!
Wow,
that is great. That's actually what I look like. I was just eating nothing but bagels and pizzas here in New York. That's actually how I feel.
Yeah. Change that undie.
Well, it looks like we just hit the open. Brian, you want to read off some opening numbers for us?
Sure. We got D's corn down, unchanged at 503.5. Nova beans down 2 1/4 at 12.34 1/4, and D Chicago wheat down 3 1/4 at 6.96 3/4.
Thanks, Brian. Hey, listen, if you love the show as much as we love putting it on, you should check out the War Room Report. Think the show, but on steroids, an exclusive newsletter with an exclusive video content library. Link is in the description if you want to learn more. And a portion of your subscription fee will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, which is our foundation. It's helping out kids in the agriculture education space and, leading the charge on the future of farming. So more information at agyieldnextgen.org. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It helps us out, gets our show to a wider audience, and just makes numbers go up. So we appreciate everyone that's tuning in and joining us on a daily basis. That's a wrap for today. Daniel will be back Monday morning. I hope everyone has a fun, safe weekend. I'm going back to canoodle with the elites of the Hamptons. Wish me luck. And we will talk to you again Monday morning. The War Room is presented by AgYield, a risk management partner of American grain farmers for over 50 years. Looking for more in-depth analysis? Check out the War Room Report. Our team's knowledge and expertise delivered straight to your inbox every weekday. Each report delivers key market-moving headlines, critical weather updates, USDA report breakdowns, and exclusive video content. All for $50 a month. And most importantly, 10% of every subscription will go directly to support the AgYield NextGen Foundation, a nonprofit investing in agricultural education and the future of farming. To sign up for the War Room Report, check out the link in the description or learn more at agyield.com. Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.